Welcome to the Maryland PTAC podcast, Assist and Win, where we showcase client success stories and feature procurement experts to help small business owners. I'm your host, Yasmin Razak, and I'm the Marketing and Training Coordinator here at the PTAC. Today's guest is Dottie Li, who is the founder and CEO of TransPacific Communications, LLC, and a longtime PTAC client. Dottie was recently recognized as one of Maryland's top 100 women by the Daily Record. This is Dottie's second time receiving this honor, becoming the first Chinese American woman to be so acknowledged first in 2015. Thank you so much for joining us today, Dottie.
Thank you so much, Yasmin, for having me, and it's great to speak with you.
And congratulations. What a wonderful achievement. Tell us a little bit about the award, how you found out, what it means to you. We're excited to hear about it.
Well, I first heard about it 6 years ago, and someone nominated me. They said, Dottie, I think you should enter this award. And so someone nominated me, and at the time I was supported by the late Secretary of Veterans Affairs in Maryland, Ed Chow, my dear friend and a role model to many. I was supported by Ed Chow and a few other good friends, and they wrote glowing recommendations to the Daily Record, and I was thrilled and surprised to be chosen as the very first Chinese American woman to be bestowed this honor. And then fast forward 5 years later, this was in 2015, the first time I received it. And fast forward 5 years later, this year, 2020, I was also nominated, and then I received it again. And this was interesting because the award ceremony, as you suspected, was online. We weren't able to meet in person as scheduled originally in April. We had a great online ceremony in July, and it was well attended. The organization did a tremendous job in promoting it, in staging it. I was very impressed, and again, it was a great honor to be among such an amazing group of women who are true leaders in their own communities and demonstrated their professional accomplishment, community leadership, and mentoring by the Daily Record. So I am truly honored. I'm still thrilled.
That's great. We love to hear about our clients doing well in business, and also particularly if they are given any awards or recognized by their peers in their community. That is wonderful and inspiring to other businesses, particularly women-owned businesses and Chinese American-owned businesses as well. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
All right, so let's go back a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about your career history and how you got to this point.
Oh, sure. Well, let me take you back a little bit. I was born and raised in China, and of course have to explain to you and your audience how I ended up being here as an immigrant, and I think you could relate because we're both immigrants. As a young kid, at about 9 years old, we were listening to the broadcast of Voice of America in Mandarin, and I got to hear all kinds of news. So at the time, my dream was to become a broadcaster at Voice of America. And of course, I needed to come here to be doing that. And I worked toward that goal, since 9, worked toward that goal of coming to America, meaning I needed to study English. And of course I did. Eventually, by God's grace, I was able to come to the US to further my education. And this was after I had become a journalist, following in my father's footsteps. Came to Mobile, Alabama, the Deep South. Yes, a Chinese girl ended up in the Deep South, and it was such a cultural shock. And when I shared my childhood dream with my professor at the time at University of Mobile, where I furthered my education, Dr. Wolf told me that Mr. Kenneth Giddens, the founder of VOA, lived in Mobile. well, it was a small world. Apparently God put me in Mobile for that reason alone. And
Wow.
I absolutely, I got to meet Mr. Gittens through the president of University of Mobile, who personally drove me to see Mr. Gittens, but who unfortunately was pretty sick at the time. I think he had some kind of dementia. He wasn't able to carry on a conversation. Now, his wife, Mrs. Gittens, took a liking in this young lady, and she and I hit it off, and she said to me that you need to go to Washington after you graduate. And I didn't have much of a say in that because she bought me a ticket to come to DC to be enrolled in a program, a National Journalism Center intern program. Now, through that intern program, I had to go to an actual media outlet to get some media experience. So, of course, I chose Voice of America to get my foot in the door. After my intern program with Voice of America was over, guess what? They offered me a job. And this is how I realized my childhood's dream by becoming a Voice of America broadcaster. And then, so moving on from there, I went on to be a network television producer at C-SPAN, a corporate spokesperson, a public relations executive, and then went on to work for the president and the First Lady Clinton at the White House in the late 90s, traveling around the world and in the country, handling presidential events. And it was such a thrill, such an enormous job for a kid from China to be working for the White House and working for the president and first lady. At the time, when I was a spokesperson in a corporate setting, my accent, as you might believe that I had a Chinese accent at the time, my Chinese accent mixed with the Southern drawl that I had picked up from my Mobile days just didn't go well with the job I had. I was a corporate spokesperson, and I was determined to lose that accent, as in neutralizing and modifying and reducing that accent so I could perform my duty better. Now, that process of neutralizing my accent opened my eyes, and it allowed me later on to work for the White House and doing what I do today. And I decided this was a life-changing experience, and it was the single best thing I ever did for my career. I got myself certified in teaching people how to reduce, modify, and neutralize their accent. And that was how I founded TransPacific Communications. And from there, I have coached hundreds of people and taught, oh my goodness, how many classes and presentations and training sessions at many federal agencies and conferences and universities and corporate places and you name it, on this very subject. And so the training topics we have now at TransPacific Communications are a result of the foundation based on that. So we have a host of cross-cultural communication topics, and based on that single topic of effective communication across cultures. Sorry, that was a long story.
Oh no, that was a great story. To hear from you, realizing that what your dream was from age 9 and pursuing it, and fate helping you along the way to come over to America. It's a fantastic story. And I have heard it before, I must confess, obviously, because we see you at the office. Well, we used to see you at the office when we had an office, you know, when we were going into the office in College Park. But it's great to hear you tell it again. I just think that's such a fantastic story. What does your business specialize in now, and why? You already started with your why. If you want to tell us a little bit more about, if somebody comes to TransPacific Communications, what can they expect from you?
Oh, great. Thank you for that. And I was always happy to step into the office of PTech in College Park in Maryland. And of course, now we can't go in there for the reason that we all know, COVID-19. But I'll be happy to see you all again. Let's talk about TransPacific Communications. Essentially, TransPacific Communications is a boutique shop offering cross-cultural communications work. Now, cross-cultural communications is a concept that some people may or may not know. So let me explain a little bit. cross-cultural communications is about breaking down barriers, communication barriers and cultural barriers and linguistic barriers between cultures, between people, among nations, what have you, right? We are living and working in the perhaps the most diverse time in our lives. And you look at us, you look at people in any setting, in a corporate world, in a federal space, and you see a diverse group of people. The workforce is truly a good place to represent our time and day. People are from all kinds of ethnic backgrounds, and they bring these cultural backgrounds as well, and their educational backgrounds and races and relations and what have you. So when people have all sorts of different backgrounds and upbringing coming together at any place, at a team, at a workforce, and at an organization, there are tremendous barriers and things that folks may or may not even talk about on a daily basis. And that's where we go in to help people understand, first of all, to identify the kind of barriers they face. And of course, my passion is working with non-native English speakers and immigrants, because we do have different sets of hurdles and challenges to break than the so-called mainstream. And so we go into organization to identify, to analyze what the barriers they have, and then we go in to offer solutions to remove these barriers, to give people the tools so that they could be more successful in performing their duties. And that's where our training courses come in to support these efforts. And we have a list of training topics, and they are all addressing various cross-cultural communication needs of an organization, of an individual, or a group. And so I have a few topics that are in demand by our federal clients and corporate clients, and some of them you actually know. I think you and I scheduled some training sessions together for PTech clients in the past. Well, let's talk about one of the most in-demand training topics. It's called Power Networking Across Cultures, and I will talk about another one after this. And this one essentially is something I've lived through my career. As we mentioned earlier, since age 9, I pursued that dream of coming to America to become a Voice of America's broadcaster. So at one point, I gave this talk at another federal conference, and one of the presenters there at the conference actually said to me, "Oh, Dottie, isn't that what you've done all your life?" And I thought, well, maybe it is. I hadn't thought of that. And so this presentation helps people to learn communication techniques and layered with understanding and respect for the diverse cultures that we come into contact every day. It is designed for people who interact with individuals from other cultures, as well as those who wish to communicate effectively. We teach people the do's and don'ts of cross-cultural communication. And one of my all-time favorite things is the art of handshaking. Of course, we can't shake anybody's hands now, right? But we've pivoted to teach people how to network on this virtual platform, be it Zoom, be it WebEx, or something else. And certainly how to properly introduce yourself to make a positive impression. You know, we've introduced ourselves hundreds of times, but yet do we stand out in a good way, right? Positive impression. And some key to memorizing people's names and how to expand and grow our networks. And certainly that's how I have done since age 9. Even coming to America, that was a networking story. And from Mobile to Voice of America, and you heard that was a true networking story. I got to meet the founder of Voice of America, right? Whose wife decided to send me to DC by buying me a ticket to come here as a poor international student. I simply didn't have the means to buy a ticket at the time. So this is a very, very popular. Most people like this topic. I think we just did one not too long ago on Zoom for another organization who requested this topic. Now, the second topic I'd like to spend a little time in is something truly near and dear to my heart, which is effective communication across cultures. This topic was a direct result of my becoming certified in teaching people how to reduce and modify and neutralize our accent. It actually was trademarked, had a trademark name called Effective Communication through Accent Reduction and Modification. And I'm so glad we're talking today. This week, we kicked off a 6-month-long program on that topic with one of our federal clients on Wednesday. And that was just 2 days ago. And guess what? This afternoon, in about 2 hours, we're kicking off yet another 6-month-long program, long-term program on this very topic for another federal client. And we are so, so grateful for, I just say it, for FDA. We're so grateful for FDA, where we received an 8A contract, and within the contract, and these are the topics that we are teaching people, and so people are ordering these topics from us based on the contract.
That's really great to hear a couple of detailed examples of what you deliver in your business. Now, what are some of the career challenges you'd you say, or at least a career challenge? We're all being challenged right now, that's a given with COVID, but is there anything that you've had to overcome in the past? Could you tell us a little bit of how you did that?
Oh my goodness, there's so many challenges. There's still many challenges every day even. Well, first of all, I wanted to say I was a journalist from my home country. As a journalist, you learn how to write, you learn how to tell a story. You want to be sure to convey the story to your readers and audiences. And I was a broadcaster. I was doing the same thing. I was a network television producer to bring stories to people. Well, to transition from being a journalist to being a business owner and an entrepreneur, oh my gosh, that was a gigantic move. I didn't know anything about business. I didn't know how to approach a government client or a corporate client for that matter. Certainly, I didn't know how to work the spreadsheet, how to work the budget. I knew nothing. I really knew nothing. But as a trained journalist, I learned how to dive into an issue quickly and come up as if I was an instant, quote unquote, instant expert, of course, by far from it. But I learned enough to say, well, I probably never will become an expert in spreadsheet. Guess what? I can hire a CPA to do those work involving spreadsheet and what have you, and budget, right? And you got to align yourself with the right talents, be it the best CPA. Actually, I just spoke with my CPA this morning, working on yet another federal contract budget. And I got to learn all those things. And guess what? Along the way, I discovered PTAC. So PTAC has been a tremendous, tremendous support to my growing TransPacific Communications, to TransPacific Communications becoming an 8A firm almost 2 years ago, and to help TransPacific Communications become what we are today, and to receive our first 8A contract by FDA, awarded by FDA, and then to receive yet another 8A contract in the middle of the COVID by the Small Business Administration. Every single step, PTech is there, has been there to support us and to help us and grow. So I want a big shout out to PTech.
Oh, thank you. That's so nice to hear, because actually that was my next question was, why would you recommend that small businesses use the PTAC?
I think PTech provides the perfect resources and support to small businesses who want to enter the federal space, who want to grow, who want to understand every little nuance there is to know about working in the federal space, be it contracting, be it submitting your proposal, be it networking with federal folks. And there's just so much to learn, and PTech is there to teach you all those skills that you need to have in order to grow your business.
That's great. I'm so glad that your PTech counselor has been able to guide you over the years, and that you understand the value of what PTech brings to the table for businesses like yours. So I'm pleased to hear that it's working out for you.
And Richard Payton is the best counselor. I'm so grateful for Richard's support throughout the years. And Richard and I have a great relationship. And there are times when I'm physically at a client site and I realize, oh my gosh, I don't have an answer. And I remember calling Richard from NIST. This was a few years ago. And I was at a very important place with a very important person within the organization. I was outside of this beautiful, beautiful office, and I said, I know who could help me out in this jam. So I called up Richard, and he was available to counsel me through right on the spot, and I was able to go back into the office to give them the right and perfect answer.
That's great. That's wonderful. Tell us a little bit about when you went to speak on the 8A program to the Democratic Subcommittee last year.
Well, it was the Small Business Committee, and Small Business Administration oversees the 8A program and signature program of the SBA. And so the committee was convening a hearing about the 8A program. They wanted to hear from folks in the field, whether you are a graduate of 8A or you're in the middle of it, or you're a new one like myself at the time, or you represent a group of 8A associations. So they chose 4 individuals with a very diverse background at various stages of their 8A program. And I was honored to be chosen. I believe I was recommended by the National ACE organization for me to represent the Asian American community, which was a tremendous honor. As you know, there are only about 5,000 8A programs in the country, and I'm not sure how many Asian Americans are 8A business owners, but probably not too many. I don't have the stats, and I was honored to be chosen. And of course, the director of PTAC, Denise Warner, and my counselor, Richard Payton, were there in person at the committee to support me during the hearing, and I'm forever grateful.
That was great. Yeah, we were all really impressed with that, and watching it as well. So it was really inspiring to see you up there. So what would you say has been your biggest success story so far?
We've been awarded an 8A contract by the Food and Drug Administration. It's a typical 5-year contract, $4 million contract, and we are charged to perform expert diversity and cross-cultural communications work for FDA. So since the award day, we have been awarded several large task orders to help FDA clients in terms of diversity and cross-cultural communications work. So that's one. And then the second one I alluded to earlier. During the early stage of COVID, we were awarded another 8A contract by the Small Business Administration to perform translation of all its COVID-19 related materials on its website. You could actually look us up, our work, on SBA's website in many languages, 17 to be precise.
So where do you see your business going in the future?
I see TransPacific Communications continue in our pursuit of cross-cultural communications work, be it with the federal government and the corporate world, where we need to pivot, especially toward the later part of our 8A years. And we love cross-cultural communications work. We love the fact that we get to support people to break down cultural and communications barriers in a team, in a workforce, and so that people could be faster, better, smoother, and quicker in continuing their work.
That's great, and I wish you good luck with that. I know you will achieve it. And so as we're wrapping this up, do you have any final words of wisdom or advice for business owners or government contractors who are listening to this interview?
Well, thank you. I don't think I'm one to give any advice or words of wisdom, but I do want to share some of my experiences. I think one lesson that I've learned is to be patient. And the second one is to be consistent, to be persistent. If you keep at it, you keep at doing the same thing you've done over and over again, because you become a recognized name in that field, in that business, and you are the expert, people will come to you, and then people tend to gravitate towards you because you have written articles, you have published stories, you have given expert talks and seminars, what have you. So just be continuing doing the same thing that you do the best.
That's great advice. Thank you so much for that. How can people learn more about your organization?
They can find me on www.trapac.net. That's TRAP as Paul, AC.net. That's short for TransPacific, so we shorten it to TraPac. They certainly could find me on LinkedIn. Just type my name, Dottie Li. That's D-O-T-T-I-E. Li is L-I. They could also find me on Instagram. They could also find me on Facebook. They could also find me on Twitter as a Mandarin_voice.
Okay, that's great. You're everywhere.
I tend to be everywhere.
Okay.
I have a good support system that sends out all kinds of good information about cross-cultural communication, about the kinds of work that we're engaged in, whether it's a keynote speech that I'm going to deliver at this national conference, which is coming up. I recorded a keynote speech in the studio. They're going to do it online during the conference, and I will be taking live Q&A. It's great. So I get to do all kinds of exciting work, and I'm so grateful.
Well, thank you so much for spending time with us today, Dottie, and sharing your story with us. It's really interesting, and we wish you continued success.
Thank you so much, Yasmin, and thank you again for PTech's continued support. I am forever grateful.